I'm Clint, and welcome to Swatches Art Livestream number 95. We're going to be reviewing a couple of pieces for an art challenge here in this stream, and joining me as usual is Anna. Welcome, Anna.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Now, Anna and I were just talking a little bit about some new stuff going on, so we added that here to our announcements. We'll just go through these announcements, take a couple of minutes to cover these, and then we'll jump into the reviews. We've already got several people joining us out here on the live stream. Kong Lee, Aid, somebody's name in Russian that I don't have a clue how to pronounce. Timothy, Michael, May, M. DeBoer. Good to see everybody. Appreciate you making the time. So, if you didn't already notice when you came into the channel, then we've got a new video that will be premiering tomorrow. How your brain is sabotaging your art. This will be tomorrow, 2 p.m. CST. It's the same time as the normal streams. So whatever time that is for you, where you are in the world, that's 2 p.m. CST for me. And that will be coming out tomorrow. It is a 14 and a half to about 15-minute video. And it is primarily going over the topic of how your brain sabotages your portraits. Now, it's mainly dealing with portraits, but the topic also could be applied and is applied to other things. I just don't go into it with the other issues and other subjects in that video. Did you watch the full video, Anna, that I cut this one from? It was put up in the Patreon video library.
Might be. I'm not sure right now. When I see it, I know for sure. So.
Yeah, this is the cover that I'm using. That's not the image used in the video, although it's
Yeah,
similar.
yeah.
It's somebody else's artwork, and I didn't really want to use it for that video. It was only black and white. I really needed something that would be color for the video. So this example of kind of where one side of the face is very heavy and kind of fake looking and like heavy with lines and it doesn't look as real, that is exactly what we're talking about. So really interesting topic that I try to explain in a little bit different way. So make sure that you are clicking on that to have it give you reminders of when that premiere is coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, so
Also, Patreon, number 3, Patreon. If you can join Patreon by September 1st, then I'm going to be putting out the first 3 lessons of the materials course. I will be working on them and have them released probably in the first week of September. It will not be on the first. The first is when Patreon takes a look to see who's all subbed, and then it processes payment over the first through the third, and then after that clears, then I release it after that. But I'll need a couple of days to do it. 90% of the work's already done, and that everything's already been laid out. I just need to record the video of me narrating it, and then cut that together and submit it. But you've had a chance to go through those and look at them. I just gave you a quick run-through video. It wasn't the full thing, but I appreciate the feedback you've given me on that, Anna.
Yeah, it's really really nice how to say collection of information, gathering of information, and you guys will like it. So I don't know how much you changed or what you I don't know threw out or put in there that I haven't heard of, but I really
Yeah.
like it.
Not really much has changed in the last time that you saw it. I probably made
Yeah.
just a few little like tight critique, changes. But the first collection of lessons, originally it was 7. That's probably going to go to about 10 now. The first 10 lessons or so. On the materials course is going over the fundamentals, and that is all of the factors going into the rendering of materials. Then after that, we start going over individual materials like rendering crystal and rendering glass and rendering skin. And we go over the individual ones, but all of those use the principles that we cover in the first set. And that's what these are. So if you want to get in at here at the beginning, I will take the 20 Patreon. Yeah, this will be available for the 10 and 20 tier. The difference being the 10 tier, you will just get the video. And then on the 20 tier, you'll get the video plus the homework of what the homework was, plus the review video of that homework. So I'm going to have somebody go through them before I release it, have them do the homework, and then we're going to do a critique of that homework. And I want you to look for how yours compares to theirs and learn from the feedback that I'm giving to the exampled homework. So that will be the extra with $20 tier. And of course, you will also have access to the video archive, the video library over through Patreon. And that also gives you access to the paintover streams here from the channel, which I forgot to put the last one up, but I need to do that. So.
Yeah, and this videos, there are so many by now, so you've never taken out one, right? I think since I've started being your patron, I think they were all there, these videos, right? They're like old
No,
ones,
we haven't
new ones.
removed any.
Yeah,
No.
so it's really huge. This is what I want to say. You can watch each video like 30 minutes, 40 minutes of paint over, help, good tips that you can also use for your own art. So I think there's just 3 or 4 I haven't watched by now. But it's so helpful for your own art to go through these critique videos. And we all love Clint's paintovers, and they keep happening there. So this video library is great.
Yeah. Now, the video library has a lot of the paintovers, and I really take time to go more in depth because the idea is I want them to be lessons that aren't just for the artist that submitted the image, but to also basically be a classroom teaching as well. And so I take more time to try to explain things and give examples. All right, moving on to number 4, Discord activity. You mentioned you got a couple of things going on there, Anna. You're heading this up. So why don't you tell us a bit about the art club and the art book club?
Yeah, I should change the name, that it's a little bit more arbitrary, but by now we have 2 things going on in the group. Basically, it's 3 things, but I'm going to talk about that. So if you join the Discord, we have the art club still running. It slowed down a bit because I felt like people need more time in order to do the assignments, and I didn't want to do this all on my own. So I thought giving them more time to join in is better. So there is not a schedule by now. I'll see what works best and then decide on a new schedule, but it keeps going. So I decided to keep it up because I was considering of maybe slowing it down because people were not submitting enough. But there are people who really need it and really enjoy it. And I think if it's just a bunch of people, like 4 or 5 people, I'm fine with that. Then we go with these, and they learn a lot, and I get a lot of positive feedback how much this helped the assignments to do that, and that it's basically like an art school for free.
Yes.
And as long as something is for free, people not doing it because they don't have the pressure behind that. So
it's true.
Yeah, they missed this chance, and this is why I want to give you guys the opportunity to still join, and I'll keep it going. We are still at the phase at the moment, and we'll go next probably to something like composition in this direction. We will see how this develops. So this is still going on. You can still join in, start with the first week, submit your stuff, and get feedback. For the art book club, the thing is, I have a couple of books at home in my shelf that I wanted to go through again, and I just thought it might be interesting to do this with a couple of people. So once a week we meet in the Hangout channel, which is an audio channel that you can join in. You can write in a chat or talk to us. So we exchanging there, we read together one book and then talk about it. So each week we decide which chapter we will read, and have some assignments also out of these chapters, post them also on Discord, and then meet once a week to talk about it if there are questions, and if you did not get it or what was interesting, just to deepen your memory about these topics.
No, these are really great ideas, and it's so good for the community. The art club is really interesting because it's like an art program by the students. The students are just getting together and saying, we're going to go through this program, by ourselves. And I talk to people a lot in the consults, and they say, what do I need to work on? What should I be doing? How do I improve? I'm like, just do this stuff. This is how you improve. Go do this art club stuff. All of these sort of practices. That is what you do to improve. And if you were to go to a good art school, they would be having you do very similar things. So just do yourself a favor and, jump into something like that.
Yeah, and so fun in the Discord. Sometimes we share our screens, paint together. Sometimes we even show or watch together tutorials and do the tutorials together and
That's
share
excellent.
these then. So it's really like studying with people in one room, and they're really
Yeah.
nice people. I heard of many that they say, "Oh, I'm too shy to come there and talk," but then you just come there and listen. You don't have to
Yeah.
talk to us. You can write also in chat. So
Lurkers are also
um,
welcome.
yeah, lurkers are welcome, but don't miss the opportunity. It's really a nice community on the Discord. I'm very proud of the people there. They are all super nice, and I didn't have to kick a single one. They all behave very well, so it's a good community.
Quick
Yeah.
question from Michael says, Swatches, is it possible to still take part in the Artifacts and Elementals challenge, despite neglecting to buy the ticket before the sketch phase ended? Yes, there are still 9 tickets available. So if you don't mind the fact that you're going to be missing the sketch review, you can still go pick up a ticket and submit something in for the finals review. I'm completely fine with that, as long as that's worth it to you. Sure.
Yep.
Number 5, paint over
also-
stream for member. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, I just thought if he wants to have his sketch checked, he can also post it on Discord. There are a lot of very good artists in there that can give you a little feedback on your sketch, and so you get still help. But you would have in 2 weeks then to hand in just the final for review.
Yeah, well, I mean, accomplish whatever you can in the 2 weeks. If you
Yeah.
couldn't get a polished image, I completely understand. Anna might be upset with you, but I'll just try to hold her back. And
No, definitely not.
no, we both totally understand time restraints. So yeah, jump in, do what you can, and we'll get you whatever feedback, based on where you are with your piece. Yeah. The Paint Over Stream is for members on Wednesdays. If you haven't joined on that, it is slowly growing, and it's a lot of fun. It's a little different than what we do here. It's not as education based, and it's more about just having fun with the image. Sometimes it's improving the lighting or the composition, and sometimes it's, hey, what if we just changed this factor of the image and try to invert the way that the artist is handling this. And that way, it's just kind of fun. We were just playing around with the ideas and the concepts. That's $5 a month. Really helps to support the channel, and that gives you the access to the 4 different paint over streams, and you can submit an image in to be in the lottery draw for each one of those. So far, we're getting less than 10 entries per episode, and we do 3 paint overs per episode. So you have a really good chance, actually, of getting a paint over the course of a month. And again, $5 compared to even the $25 with the art challenge, but of course the art challenge is guaranteed reviews. And I probably need to open up some more dates on the art mentor. I think I have it just to the end of the month, but I'll open up more. And of course, you can schedule an hour mentorship consult with me, and we can go over wherever you are. Maybe you're just getting into digital art and you want some ideas of where you start, and you're just confused with how many options you've got. Maybe you're trying to prep a portfolio before you start jumping into the industry. And we'll take a look at it, see if there's any pieces to polish up. Do you have too few pieces, too many pieces, all that sort of thing? Or maybe there's just a single piece that you're working on and you really care about it, but it's not coming out the way that you want. Hey, toss it over to me and I will give you the best input that I can on it. All right, anything else you want to add to that, Anna, or is that pretty much covered?
I think we covered the most important stuff, so.
All right, well, let's go into it. So for this challenge, this is the Artifacts and Elementals challenge, and they had the option of doing one of 2 artifacts or 2 elemental creatures. I made a mistake and put the tickets up a week later than they were supposed to be, so we don't have as many entries. We only have 3 entries to look at today. First is Jonathan Monroe. Okay, so this is Jonathan Monroe. He has a couple of comments. Let's read those real quick. I found it tough to emphasize the sorrow part without having to add characters. Played around with the idea of having the carvings on the horn tell a story and have a sunset background to symbolize death. The Discord suggested adding some candles, but it wasn't working out right. Also had some trouble figuring out a color scheme that worked. I think this is a lot of good stuff to talk about with this one. This is one of those where the artist, in this case Jonathan, has not overcomplicated the subject. You know, it's about the horn. It's an artifact, which means it's all about the item. You don't want to get too busy with the background, the environment, and I think he's gone very straightforward with it. I'm going to suggest some little tweaks here and there, and I've done a little adjustment on a layer over here, what will pop up in a second. But my initial impression is quite positive that this, is going the right line. You had the chance to look at this for a moment. Anything strike you about this that you'd like to comment on, Anna?
Yeah, so just right ahead, I just had one piece today to look at before stream because of the problems with the links, and so
Yeah.
I haven't jotted down any notes on this one. So I go a little bit with my first impression feelings today with these three. So I also liked the posing and the composition and the angle of the camera. So I think the top-down view he had in the other sketches were not so impressive, and I think he really made a good choice with this low-angle camera view. I would not change that. And also the clean line work is beautiful, and the value work he's done here is also very good choices have been made.
Yeah, it's extremely readable. I don't have any problem understanding what I'm looking at, and that means that he's well executed what the concept was about. He's conveying the concept with a lot of clarity.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I also would not change too much. So I feel like the what is it? Not pillar, but on the left. Is it called a
Yes,
pillar?
I think it's a pillar or column.
Column, yeah. The column. It creates a lot of very parallel lines with the window behind it, and it looks a little bit boring. So I'd like to break this up somehow. And it looks a little bit stiff to me. It's a very harsh edge, and maybe you can even work around that by loosen up some edges or changing the lighting on it or something. I'm not sure what to change, but I just feel drawn to all these parallel lines that are not part of the important focal point of this. Of this piece. It just draws my eyes to that column all the time, and I'm like, no, don't look there. It's a beautiful heart in the middle, so stay there. So maybe you could do something with that background design there. Also, I think with rendering it will get more clear, but is there a glass with ornaments on top? Or is these little ornaments part of the frame that are just not connected anywhere to the frame yet? In that case, you would have to connect them.
That's a good question. The stuff in the window?
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't look like it's serving any kind of structural support because it's not connected to anything, except maybe at the bottom. I don't know.
Maybe we can make it a little bit more elvish, filigrane, and symmetric, because usually these are pretty much symmetric from when you have these as ornaments in a doorway or on windows. If you check on some
Well,
of the designs. I don't know. So
yeah, you actually bring up an interesting point with the design work because most of it is like a Celtic. You have
yeah,
Celtic knotwork here and here, but then over here, that's not really Celtic. That's more of a Mediterranean sort of design there. This, I think, is going back to being slightly Celtic, but it looks like it's just kind of a fast one. If the window design was made to be like a proper Celtic knotwork, and it was maybe just some sort of gold leafing on the window, I think that would be really cool. Where it's not
okay,
structural, but it was just, overlaid on the window to give it this ornamentation.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I was about to say that also about the crosses on the. I'm not knowing a lot about Celtic culture and don't know
mhm,
what symbols are used, but there's a lot of this. Looking to me, at least these Greek waves everywhere
mhm.
on the horn and also on the columns, and I don't know whether they fit in there. And then the cross on the elephants, and then this very Celtic symbol in the middle of the horn. I was just not sure whether this fits together. I would have to look it up whether it's all Celtic symbology.
Yeah, this you would see crosses like this on a lot of gravestones in like Scotland and probably
Hmm.
the Celtic areas. But because this is D&D, I mean MTG, uh, you're not going to be able to use those, which is
Oh,
you
okay.
can't use real world imagery like that. So Jonathan, you'll need to still probably use a some sort of symbol, but it'll have to be some adjusted version of a cross or a circle or something simple and geometric. MTG
Mm.
does have a series of like the Averson symbol and that sort of thing that is reminiscent of real world imagery. So if you want to use one of those, you could probably use one of those, and that wouldn't be a problem. But yeah, let's stay away because this is also very similar to the classic cross used in the Crusades that the knights would have on their tabards and shields and stuff. Church of Sarah might also, yeah, something like the symbols of the Church of Sarah. Any of those existing symbologies would be acceptable. Okay. So, okay, I had a couple of thoughts here, and the first one hits my mind is the overall composition is good, but we need to work on the perspective a little bit because we're seeing this window at an angle. I'm getting the impression that this window is at a perspective, that we're kind of looking at it at that perspective, but the horn and this base is completely flat to us. So it's kind of weird because like the table would have to be turned like 15 degrees away from being straight with the window for it to be flat to us, but the window to be at an angle. I think it would be better if we just turned the table in order to have a slight angle on it and not be completely flat to it. So I messed around with that and got this. And so you can see the sort of difference there. We're keeping about the same angle, height wise, but the whole thing has shifted so that it is a bit more matching that of the window. And now we see a lot more of this side of the table, and maybe even more. That's just where it ended. I think we'd see little, if anything, of the angle on the other side there. And then we're also having to adjust that we would see, of course, more of the backside of the little elephants, and it changes the curvature of the horn. So here we can look at the before and after. Now, if you get the horn at this angle, because we're turning it, same thing as if you got like this and you're taking it from here, and you can look at how these lines are basically straight. But if I turn it, then you're going to get more to it, or perhaps like that. And you're going to get more accentuated spherical nature out of it. And so I would put these guidelines in for me, just be like, okay, it's kind of like that. And then I can adjust that to match it. Now, something that gets a bit complicated is the end of the horn, because we're looking up at it, but because it is angled, that is, it's not straight up and down and it's not flat, that it's angled towards us, and the whole thing is angled back around to us, we may actually see a little bit of the inside of that horn if you turn it. Now, I just eyeballed this. I didn't have a horn like this, but I did get like my little water bottle, and I held it up to match that angle, and I think I would see a little bit of the opening there. So that would be my guess, Jonathan, if you're going to go with this sort of adjustment. And I think this would be a nice little change that doesn't change the composition, but it gives you just a slightly more 3D view. Would this be something that you would consider doing yourself, Anna? That sort of adjustment there?
Yeah, I also wouldn't have known that, you see, but I just also hold up my drink a little bit to see. Yeah, definitely. You can still, usually when you have something from below, you always think you can't see it. But well, yeah, of course, it depends on how it's tilted. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, May. I'm sorry, I don't have any cool horns right now, but if you find one and would like to send it to me, I would be happy to add it to my collection. So yeah, you got that, and of course that's going to make some adjustments across the rest of it, where you're going to see all of these are going to have to bend more. These are fairly flat right now, which would be accurate, and all of this would have to spherize a little bit more as it goes around. So that would be one change. Then you talked a bit about the color scheme, so let's chat about that for a moment. And I do have a cool wolf's head model that I've got. I can take it out of storage. I don't have it up right now. I think this is going to be really dependent on the window back here is going to set a lot. Now you've got a couple of different window options here, and Jonathan mentioned like, how do I get the sorrow part? I don't think you have to go too serious about the sorrow. It's just the name of the horn. And so if you can just allude to that a little bit, that's probably fine. I think your idea of using like a sunset is a very apt decision. It's a very good decision from an artist to try to convey that. It's like the ending of something. But yet it's still going to give you some color and it's going to give you some light. And on each one of these, you've changed the color of the window, and that's good. But what you're not doing is letting it be consistent across the scene. So if there was this purple color, it's not going to allow this to be really orange and yellow, because that light is not going to allow that color. It's not within the gamut of that color range of that light source to produce that color. So all of this scene probably needs to be adjusted to match the color of the light source. And for this one, we're going to go probably more analogous with the color scheme, I'm thinking. Pretty similar colors. This isn't like a bombastic action scene that needs a lot of contradictory colors and stuff. So something probably more analogous. I grabbed a multiply layer and I threw this over it. I think this would be a bit more of a nuanced version than just a flat tone. Is to have like the dusk sort of sky of the bluish at the top, and it gets slightly warmer, but not like red. You know, it just gets warmer and lighter as it goes down. And that would start by using an analogous color to tint everything. Then we want to come in and add some additional light sources and say, there's probably some torches, burning in the room. And so I use a linear dodge layer and add some torches along there. And these are all keeping it within the same framework. You don't have any greens, you don't have any straight yellows, you don't have any straight blues. It's all within this kind of dull orange to violet, and then almost over to the gray side. But this is, kind of how I would think about it. What's your idea on that, Anna, or would you think about maybe taking it a different direction?
Yeah, this is very, very important approach that you really go from one light source to the other
Hmm.
and see how these light colors interact with each other with the color of the object. So it's kind of tricky to have many different colored things with colored light,
Yeah.
but going step by step will help you, and it makes it even more realistic. And I think it's a good idea to approach it like that.
No, he's got a couple of examples here of the like a slice of light cutting through the scene, where there's just one band of light that's going up across those references there and across the floor over here until it comes up to the head of the character. And you could do that as well if you wanted to keep most of it in shadow. Let's say we just make a new linear dodge layer and grab like a burnt sienna sort of color. Oh, that's got a bunch of smoothing on it. Hang on. And so you could have a light sort of coming across it, hitting that, and maybe hitting these guys and part of this. But this one works really well because there is a wall behind it, and so there's something to track it to. But yours doesn't really have it, so it ends up being a bit more broken. You can't follow along the light as well as it tracks up the object. But you could give it a try. You might find an arrangement with an angle that you really like. But otherwise, I'm thinking maybe something close to what we had there. I'm also thinking that you may treat the pillar as the darker source, and there would be like a... I need something warmer than that. There could be a light coming out from behind the pillar, on that side, and maybe there's light kind of hitting that as well. And this could almost be backlit, that it's a bit more silhouetted. There's not even any direct light really hitting it from that side. But you could play around with that. But I think having an overall base of the sky affecting the color scheme overall would be a good start.
Could we make this a series, Clint?
Make it...
Like, for example, you take a picture like this and you make a YouTube videos with, I don't know, 10 ways to light this scene, and then you give exactly like you just did, because it's so cool ideas. Every time
Yeah.
you bring up these ideas, it's hard for me to choose which one would be the coolest because they're also great. And you should make a video with just taking a piece like this from a student or from your own and say, hey, I'm going to show you how there's 10 different ways to work with light and color, because this is the cool stuff. And I show you 10 versions of this, and they'll all be cool. So let's
Yeah,
watch this
yeah. It
video.
has to start like Kong Lee says, artists hate him, revealing the secrets of the professionals.
Yeah. Art schools will hate him for this video. No art school needed anymore.
No, I think that's a really cool idea. It's fun to do, and I think if people can just see that played out, then it helps you to start thinking that direction and seeing how you could do that with your own pieces. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, if you need a clickbait title, you can always ask Kong Lee to give you one.
Yeah.
He seems to have a couple of good ideas. Yeah, jot it down. You will forget. Jot it down directly.
Yeah, you've already got like an hour, so we gotta move on to the next one here. Michaela is up next. Michaela says, this is a man-made horn. The material properties are like obsidian, which is a dark, shiny rock. Really cool stuff. Using a soft top-down spotlight. I assume something like your lighting photo up here. Artwork. The wood figure has a broken wing. Not sure if I should torch or splinter it or make it as if it was carved like that. So the overall idea here, Michaela, very cool. Man, I like this. In a couple of small things that you're doing here that really, it gets the standard and it gives it that slight push to one side, which is usually where good ideas come from. They're based on something known and relatable, but it's given just a push to a different direction. In this case, you've got the angel statue, but it's made from wood and it's carved, and a piece of it is broken. That's cool. That's a different way to normally take it. And just the shape of the horn, it's not the standard. It's like this hoop horn that you would wear around you while you're blowing it. I think that's cool too, and it's just draped around this thing. So overall, the idea I think is excellent. The composition is reading quite well. You've got the statues there in the background. I assume that these are going to be like full alcoves, like you have in your photo up here on the top right. If you do have some background noise in this video, by the way, it is pouring down rain because forget which storm it is. Is it Laura? Yeah, Hurricane Laura is hitting the U.S. right now, and so it's throwing storms up here. And yeah, so I think that's cool. The lighting, I think, works as well if you can capture something like this. And same sort of lighting, coming down, hitting that skull there. Because it's a very soft, it's kind of a somber lighting that could work really well. This texture is going to be a lot of fun to see pull off. I wanted to get this in my materials course, but maybe if I expand out to some more lessons, we could go over like carved wood. Oh, hang on, I gotta go close that. Okay, so you've had a moment to take a look at it, Anna. Tell
Yeah.
us out some thoughts that you have on it.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. It's really a very beautiful piece already. I
Mm-hmm.
like basically all the design, the composition, the lighting ideas, how she approached the value studies. It is
Yeah,
very,
pull up on those.
yeah, very professional already. Um, she wrote in her text that it will have properties like obsidian and also has a reference. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at that reference, obsidian is not having the same kind of how to say brightness in the lights as metal has,
Right.
and it looks very metal to me, the horn right now. And yeah, just look at the reference. You have a really good one there on how light and dark behaves there, and try to copy it on your piece and adjust that. Also about the horn, it is a very huge, round, flat shape that is having no details, although it looks to me as it is the focal point of this piece besides the
Mm-hmm.
angel. So it could need some level up on the design there, the
Yeah.
details, or yeah, like you have in the reference, there's also some engrave also carvings on it or so. So maybe you will add it later. I don't know. Maybe you already planned that. I think the figurines will be like in your reference, like full-fledged standalone
Right.
figurines.
I
By
assume so.
now, by now they look very flat and like these I don't know how is it in English, but these half figurines, like they're coming out of the wall, just like to 50%. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there is there's a kind of figurines that are like that. This could work too, but in order you want them really to be like 3D and yeah, full standalone figurines, you must check the walls behind the figurines. They are too close to their center
Yeah,
line.
either they need to be uh, carvings. They're called the reliefs, where
Yeah,
it's
right, yeah.
it's basically flat, or they're alcoves where it actually curves in behind them and gives the room for the body to be back there.
Yeah.
I assumed they were going for the alcove thing. But yeah, either way, Michaela, you got to make sure that that's reading correct. And a lot of that is going to be just how you shade it so that we know whether the wall is flat and they're coming out from it, or whether the wall's going in and they're just in the gap, in that space.
Yeah. The second thing, this is a fantasy piece, so I don't know, maybe it's attached somewhere, but because of the very heavy opening of the horn, it would move over to the left side and not hold like this on the figurine because of gravity.
Oh, the weight would take it and pull it. Okay, I follow.
So I mean, it is a fantasy. I don't know, maybe it's a magic or something, but just think about whether you make maybe the angel hand hold it or something that you just.
I was literally thinking the same thing.
So something like that. And the last thing, just like as we saw in the paint over before, like strengthening some color and light effects on it, maybe the top light, or it's cheesy because we say it all the times with these horns, but putting some candles around just that you have the possibility for different light angles or lighting situations, different colors with a cool top light and a warm candlelight around it or something like that, or could be also coming from some light source outside of the frame of the picture plane.
Yeah.
But just play around a little bit to give it more dynamic. But by now it's really a very solid piece, and you did a very good job. It's awesome.
Yeah, no major changes. Now we're just getting the subject that you have and making some fine tweaks to it to make it even more interesting, and using the lighting to bring out more interest and depth and mood. So let's go over a couple of things that you talked about because they were on my mind as well. And let's hit about the horn first because it is the focal point. I love the size of the horn. I love that it's like this black obsidian. I like that it has this silver end to it. But it is maybe a little too featureless. And let me toss you my thought. Is what if we had another metal piece? I'll just do it like in white so that we can see it. And it was like a support bar. Like there's a band that goes around here. Probably comes down a little further than that. And there's like a band over here. And there's a crossbar that goes like across here. And it just helps keep the shape, but yet also the angel's hand like comes up and curls around and keeps and I guess her sleeve kind of falls back and as her hand comes up and gently holds this one crossbar to keep it in shape. Something like that. And that way it makes sense that maybe it's not moving because the hand kind of clips onto it. And then with the end of it, I really think it would be better if the end of it funneled out a little bit and wasn't completely flat. If it was completely flat, it wouldn't really do anything sound-wise. So the funnel allows it to actually keep the sound in check and focus it. And so, this is kind of funneling it a little bit right there. Let me turn that slightly more. And that would just give it a slight cone feel to it. I'll kind of go in that line. And maybe even some more decorations. Like if you mimic the shape or the figure of the angel on this metal piece. Or if there was carvings, I think this is a prime place to have some carvings and some relief information. And so maybe there's like the images of kings of old that are like around here, or there's images of people weeping, because it's blowing the sound, and then the people hear it and they begin weeping for the loss of the king. And so you could have that sort of imagery around that area. And maybe just occasionally you put a metal band around it so that it just has some information going on with it around the shape. So that's some ideas. And the wing, let's see, I ran the perspective lines here following your figures and everything. And this looks more misdrawn than that the wing is broken. If you're going to have one of the wings broken, I think it's probably the nearer wing that needs to be broken, because I can more easily tell as a viewer that it's broken because it's going to be bigger and I can see more of it. If you break the other end, due to the perspective and due to the fact that it's so much smaller, it's not going to be as easy for me to notice and recognize that it's broken rather than it was maybe just misdrawn. So I'm going to say probably fill that one out, and then you want to come up here and break this one off in kind of splinters. And I sort of like your idea of the burned as well, and you have like char marks. I guess it would all be black. You'd have like char marks where maybe that had got burnt and broken off at some point. And that could be along part of the wing as well. And that seems like that would be pretty cool. Yeah. And then that would be more obviously broken if I were to just glance at the image. And then we can fill this back out. Like that. Okay. I think the angel figure is working pretty well. The rest of the stand is pretty straightforward, but I don't know that it really needs to be fancy. If you wanted to put a couple of the candles down here, and probably some sort of little tray, is candle burning on a set of wood. No, maybe not best idea. But you could put some candles down there, and that would make sense. And that could work pretty well, and give you another light source if you wanted another light source.
They were working with torches through their wooden houses in the Middle Ages, so they were not very, taking care there.
I just threw a multiply layer on here to kind of simulate that those were alcoves, and threw a multiply layer on the wood to give it more of a wood sense. And I wanted to desaturate it. I think it'd be probably better if more of the color was in this area rather than the background. It's kind of the same way that you've got in this here. This light feels nice and cool, and it actually brings out the color because the background is really, really dull. And so I was dulling that down, kind of following that. And then if you darkened it and had a linear dodge cool light, I don't really want the cool light back on them. Falling down on the characters, I think that works pretty well. I think you could develop something pretty cool with that. And that's if you wanted some like atmospherics behind them. Like that. Although another idea would be to do like actually put light sources in behind. It helps when you use the brush and not the eraser. In behind the figures. And you could have some interesting light stuff like going on back here. So you have like the cool light from the top, and then you would have the warm light that's sort of spilling out from behind these guys. and you would have interesting pattern of that. And then any of the light near that would be catching into any of the atmosphere that you add, and softening out the detail. We don't have really any detail at the bottom of these that is interesting or worth bringing out. So we can just obscure it in some neat color. Anyway, you could go that sort of direction and light those. Because normally you would say, you light them from the front. But, what if you lighted them from the back and they were all more like silhouettes, and it's the alcove itself that is lit, right? And the alcove... the inside of the alcove, maybe it was even painted like some sort of golden, and like if there were gold leaf on the inside of all of the alcoves, and then you had like the stone statues in front of them. That's kind of cool. I haven't seen that before, but that could look neat. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Any comments there?
Yep, I really need that video with the 10 ways to light and color this painting, this picture.
Well, for those who
Right
don't know,
tomorrow.
I do have the character lighting video where I use the same character and I light him
it
16
is
different ways.
lighting. But this is still a little bit different here because I don't know, it's more also with color and different moods and all that. And the characters is the base, like what you need to know. It's a very educative one, and this here is just us looking in awe at your art and feeling really happy and warm inside.
Oh, you could do this. I'm not using any fancy techniques here.
Yeah, but it would be just cool. Like then we could like look at the painting, say, okay, how could I light it? How would I do it? Stop the video and then jot down some things or do some scribbles and then watch a video and be like, wow, right, we could have done this, we could have done that. And this is just such a cool moment when you see, oh yeah, like with the door that opened it. I'm still thinking about that with the overpaint before. Like these are things I'd never come up with. It's just so cool to look at, and I'm gonna do this someday. It's exactly that one, and yeah, you really should make a video on that and get a very catchy title for it. You can ask Kong for that. So.
Oh, yeah. Excellent resource. I should be making use of that more often.
Yeah. So some clickbaiting is good. Because sometimes we need to force people to understand that they're just about to watch something really amazing.
Yeah, no pressure, right?
No?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
As long as it's amazing. Yeah.
It is. So.
Okay, well, yeah, beautiful scene, Michaela, and I think you've got a lot of great options to go from there. No serious changes, and I'd say move on with it. Last one we take a look at is Sasha. Sasha. Not used to there being that second S at the beginning. Sasha. Hey, Clint and Anna. Never did any serious painting before, so everything is new to me. All I ever did was sketch. I only used the reference for a general guidance on where to go and didn't put much effort in perspective yet. My thinking is that general design, composition, and value is more important up until now. Please don't hold back. I am eager to learn from you both. Yeah, definitely composition and design value is very important at the beginning. You've kind of what we'd call eyeballed the perspective, and that can be fine for quick ideas and jotting things down. But it also isn't difficult to just throw some quick, perspective guidelines in when you're sketching. So I think this is a good start. We can chat about this, but I also want to pull in and take a look at the concepts here, because this is nice that you've been running with a couple of different ideas. Now, some of this is a little too crazy for me to make out what's going on. Looks like this one's like bursting into somebody's house, and they're down there. Okay. So I think this one of the three probably fulfills it best. It's more understandable than the first one, and it is the exterior shot, which is more of what was discussed in the brief. And you've got the creature there, you got the town, we get the feeling of the size, a couple of references from the I'm gonna say Ravnica. It's not Ravnica. Anyway, that plane of magic. Did you have a chance to take a look at this?
I am just now. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll try.
So,
Yeah.
some of the things that I am liking is the size of the creature. We do have a building to go against. The character is. The character being there isn't a problem. I think his pose is maybe a little. So we probably want to go find a good pose reference. You don't have any pose references listed right now. And that's usually, you don't need them immediately. But at this point, if you're going to go with this one, I say, yeah, go ahead and go with this one. Then we do need a pose reference of somebody like falling backwards or hitting something or just crumpled on the ground. Any of those is fine. But I also want to just say, hey, for somebody that's never actually done any serious painting and tackled a big piece, that's awesome. I mean, so glad to see you jump in. And you got to start somewhere. I think this is an excellent start. And so now let's talk about how to get this and take it over to the next step. I think the perspective is probably one of the first things that I would adjust. I feel like we're maybe a little too high right now, and that it would be more interesting and more engaging if our eye level was a bit lower. Right now, our eye level is right about there. Looking at this building, I'm sort of guessing because it's not completely accurate. And yeah, it's got to be right about there. And I don't know, it would be more interesting if we were down on a lower level, looking up at it makes it feel bigger. You would agree with that, wouldn't you? I mean, if you could switch the camera a little lower, Anna.
So I also would think much lower would be better. By now, it looks to me like it's exactly where he put the line for some parts of the building, and for the others, it's a little bit higher. So just get a grid and adjust that. We are working through a perspective book at the moment in the art book club. So if you want to hop on and refresh your memory on perspective, feel free to join. So shall I go with the other stuff that I noticed already, or did you just want the feedback on the horizon line by now?
No, hit me, and then I'll move over to some other stuff as well.
Okay, so I really like the lines of your sketches that you did. They're loose but still controlled, so one can see that you have definitely experience with sketching and knowing how to have some lines a little bit more opaque and the others less, and so on. So you have a good control of that, and sketching is definitely already in your skill set. And the next step for you would be, I think, getting the values right, because at the moment the values are a little bit all over the place. When you decide something is in your foreground, then try to have it in a very decided, specific value range. The value range should differ from the foreground to the midground to the background. In the most cases on Earth, because we have atmosphere, we go from the most large and using a lot of darks in the foreground, and then by receding in the background, we get less and less contrast and getting lighter. Your creature, for example, is hard to read because right now it has a little bit of midground value, a little bit of foreground value, but not like the upper body being all in foreground and the other in midground, but the back has midground values, the hand has midground values, and then suddenly there are some blacks within the creature. So This is why it was hard for me to make out where this creature starts and where it ends.
Yeah.
Also, the shape language in this is a bit confusing because the creature has exactly the same shape language as the foreground trees, which makes it again hard to understand which part is creature, which part is not. For example, his hand was not reading as hand for me at the beginning, but a tree that's growing there because of that shape language. Also, it looks like the hand is already grown into the ground, which I would not recommend, because if it's a fast action and he's reaching out for that human and maybe miss him or something, he wouldn't have his hand growing so fastly into the ground. Otherwise, he would have like earth and soil and stuff like just floating around like an explosion because he just grabbed his hand inside of the
Yeah.
of the ground. So this
Yeah.
looks like just a tree silently growing there and being a bit tilted. So you must decide what you want. And the human figure also, I cannot read basically what's happening. Is there something sticking in his stomach? Is it like a third or a part of a tree? I can't read it. Also, why is he reaching out to the creature? Usually he would either try to crawl away from it or you usually hide your or bring your arms in front of your eyes and head, because it's a very it's a biological thing that you just try to cover your face when you're frightened or try to protect your body. You usually try to cover your face and your head or something. So this looks more like help me, I'm dying here. This is this typical position for help me, I'm dying. This is this hand reaching out for help. So I would reconsider the pose of this guy. I also like the value study number 2. It gives much more clear value schemes than the one you're using right now. I also like the cross being kind of part of the symbolism here, with being
Yeah.
very prominent.
That's another one. We can't actually use the cross and get MTG. You
Yeah.
can use Averson. This would be the exact place to use Averson's symbol because she is the patron angel of this world.
But the general idea, I just like to have a symbol like being very prominent in the background with that
It's
kind of
something
setting.
like the Omega symbol. It's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so stuff like that. Get your values right. Use perspective grid. Think about the shape language in your creature design. There's some rocky parts, some tree parts, but I feel like it's a bit too busy and not following a specific anatomy or something that I can follow and understand. So for the lower body, it's okay. Like I can tell there's hips and legs, but the upper body is a little bit all over the place, and
Yeah.
it's not a nice flow within the character where your eye gets like led through the character to look at it. Things like that. So
Yeah, let's chat about that for a moment. First, I was going to adjust this perspective. I'm going to get the bottom part from the horizon down, squash it up, and then I'm going to grab all of it and then I paste it. And I'm also going to just expand it out so that we don't have as much of the environment, and we've got more of the creature. And I'm going to cut it off because we don't need that much of the building. It's not telling us anything more about the creature. So we could be using a composition that's a bit more like this, a little bit more perspective accuracy there. That we feel like he's taking up more room. We're looking up at him more. I'm going to direct you to have less power in your lanterns. Look at the lanterns here. That the lanterns aren't very bright. They barely make a difference. If I'm not mistaken, I want to believe in the actual style guide for this world that the art director sent me. I want to think that it has a statement about the lanterns can't hold back the darkness or the shadows or something like that. They can only illuminate a small part. You never want to feel like they're enough to fight the darkness. And so the same sort of power that you get from that, and also look at the brightness. And the saturation. If you were to look at it, it's just past 50%. It's like 60% saturated, and that's it. I mean, the most saturated is still quite a ways from being fully saturated. This is not straight yellow. It is not, major orange. It's really dulled down. So we want to go with more of that so that it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel bright. So all of this is going to be toned down a lot. And it's all going to be, it's just like, it's going to affect basically the side of that building right there. And then it's not going to affect anything on the ground. All of this is going to just be dark. All right, yeah. And if we get anything of this building, it's going to be like what we have back there, which is it'll be a silhouette, right? And we can have the sky lighter. Now, look at the values of that one, right? The sky is actually lighter, and then the silhouette of the building show up. We probably want to follow that as well. Now, we get a little bit lighter as it comes down, and that is due to the fog. Fog is pervasive in this world. And something else that I totally forgot until I saw your image, which is the moon is actually bigger in this world. It is visibly much larger. So if you are going to have the moon, it will be more like that, which is, it will be like this. It's far bigger than what we humans see Luna when we look up in the sky. So if you're going to have the moon, put it, much bigger. But I'm not really, unless you're using it as a compositional tool, I don't think you probably even need to show it. Because this is actually using it and aligning it with the subject, and it becomes one of the compositional elements. But this is just like a side thing. So I'm going to say probably just take it out. And you can have moonlight hitting stuff, but we just get the idea that the moon is like up there somewhere. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk a bit about the creature. We want to come in here, and before you move on to do any more like detailing and refining, you need to figure out what the forms are. Now, I sort of sketched out what the forms might be, and yours is behaving almost more like a bear. So if you go look up photos of a bear and the way that it moves, you might find a good photo that you could kind of base the pose of your creature on. That, or perhaps like a gorilla, something like that. He's very front heavy. Yeah. And you were mentioning, Anna, about the hand coming down, and that was making me think a bit about a gorilla and how they walk basically on their knuckles, right? And they walk like that, and that he could be doing that as well, that essentially his hand is curving over that way, and he's walking on his knuckles. And that would work. Otherwise, yeah, you probably need to show that heavy impact and the dirt and stuff coming up. So, okay, now moving on from there a little bit. Now, talking about the design of the creature, I think the size is good. The general pose, I think, is working. So now we go back to refining the actual design of the character a little bit. And for this one, remember, he's mainly composed of heavy vines, earth, and I'm going to assume that you go into the gravestones. Now, if these are gravestones, they need to be a lot smaller, because these gravestones are like 10 feet tall. So we can definitely throw some gravestones on here, and we want to make them clear that they are gravestones. Otherwise, these are a little too uniform to just accept as rocks. So they need to come up here, then maybe they have the Averson symbol on the top of them, or they just have a fluted sort of top to it that you can tell that it's some sort of gravestone. But they need to be the right size for this. Let's also pay attention to the nature of the shapes. Now, this is like a rotting sort of creature, and it's something about decay. Now, if we look over here, this one's actually pretty close to that. And you notice that the shapes are, it's usually fairly flat on the top of the shape. And then on the bottom, the shape is where all the drippy, rotten stuff is. So you have all the vine stuff that's kind of uneven hanging off the bottom of it. And occasionally you have a, broken stick and bare limbs sort of sticking out the top. But it's mainly along the bottom is where you have all those hanging bits. And we almost have the reverse here, and that's why I made this little thing. That if you have your basic form, let's say it was just a sphere, you basically have a sphere that has all of these sharp sort of spiky things coming off the top of it. Well, we almost need to reverse that, where you would have your basic form, and then you're going to have all these vegetation, roots, clinging dirt clumps, rotten little tendrils of stuff that is kind of coming off the bottom, and then occasionally you'll have a broken stick or a tombstone sticking off of the top, right? So go take a look and make sure that you have plenty of elemental references for how they design them, like earth elementals and the way they sort of construct them out of earth and the rest of the stuff. And I think between your form drawing based on a pose, where you have an idea of what the three-dimensional qualities are, and you combine that with a refined design for the character, you're going to be in really good shape. And follow what Anna was saying, which is kind of a dark to a little bit lighter as it goes back, and just working it in simple planes of the things that are closer or darker, the things in mid-ground have a lower value range, things in the background have a lower value range. Now that changes a little bit at night, because you run into the sort of thing that what you see here, which is it gets where things in the background are silhouetted, but they can also be higher in value because of atmosphere, even though they are silhouetted and not just going to black. Okay, a lot of stuff covered there. Any final thoughts before we start wrapping this one up?
Yeah, so these were not many, but very high in quality submissions this time. And I really liked all the ideas you had, guys. And there's really good work going on. And I'm looking forward to what you will make out of it. This time you have a little bit more time to finish this up
Yes.
than thing.
Yes.
So we also must say that these people just had 1 week to come up with the whole design, with sketching it up, with going for value studies.
A
They
lot
did
of
all
work.
and they did so well in just this little amount of time, and I think it's good training for them for the real life
Yeah, we
work.
should just do that every time. I don't know why they need 2 weeks.
Yeah, I
just,
also think let's
yeah.
cut it.
Yeah, the next challenge, I still am planning on following the MTG theme, and it will probably be over spells. And so it will have a character in some sort of action. And we may even switch over. We're talking a little bit about doing a D&D theme. So we would have some classic sort of D&D characters. Maybe you would have to do like a trio, group based on a list. And you could choose which characters you wanted to do from that. And I would also like to do some like D&D locations and maybe even some D&D props. Because those are a little different. If you pick up one of the D&D books, they have examples of all kinds of stuff. It's like all kinds of necklaces and like horns, but a lot of their things are standalone. They don't have backgrounds. It's not about an environment. It is just about the item itself. So we can do that sort of thing. If you guys have ideas, feel free to drop them in the comments here on the video. Make sure if you haven't already, please hit that like and make sure you are subbed to the channel so you can find your way back here for the new content. And of course, if you want to join me next Wednesday, that's the next time that we'll be streaming here on the channel, you do need to be a tier 2, which is a super swatcher. Here on the channel, $5 a month, you get the every Wednesday paint over stream, and you can submit an image. And remember, guys, that people involved in the challenge can submit their challenge image for the weekly paint over as well. So feel free to do that. No problem with that. And if anybody does have, I don't have the Discord link immediately handy, but if somebody has that, feel free to put it in the Discord. And I also want to say, it's kind of cool to see the 2-month little Swatches badge over there on a couple of the names. Let's see, May has a 2-month Swatches member badge. That's cool to see. All right. All right, well, we're going to wrap it up there. Shorter stream today, but thank you so much for everybody joining us. And join us out on Discord and get some feedback from the group. And we will, tomorrow the video. If you didn't catch the beginning of the stream, we have the video, 15-minute video premiering tomorrow, same time as the normal streams, 2 p.m. for me. And we will catch you then. Where's my screen thing? All right, until then, keep drawing.